A sharp pain spread throughout my body, jolting me awake, my pajamas soaked in cold sweat.
What happened? Wasn't I being devoured by zombies just a second ago?
How am I now lying peacefully at home?
Had a nightmare?
John, sleeping beside me, turned over and held me, feeling my sweat-drenched pajamas. He opened his sleepy eyes.
Was it a dream? But if it was, it felt too real. The extreme weather, the stench of the zombies, and the excruciating pain of being bitten.
I looked at his cheeks, not hollowed out from lack of food and constant fleeing like in the dream. I couldn't help but reach out and touch his now full face. The sensation was real.
Could it be that I've been given a second chance?
As I struggled to distinguish whether that horrifying experience was a dream or something that had actually happened, a message on my phone confirmed it wasn't a dream.
Hey Anna, guess what? Michael and I are getting married next month.
This information was exactly as I remembered. At that time, I had advised her against marrying Michael, saying he wasn't someone she could rely on. But Emily, being head over heels in love, didn't listen and married him with her parents' substantial inheritance and the large apartment below mine. When the zombie outbreak happened, I watched her jump from the 32nd floor below me.
Thinking of this, I shivered again.
Anna, what's wrong?
I snapped out of my memories. This time, I will protect those around me. In the briefest words, I told John what had happened in the previous life.
You don't have a fever.
I'm not making this up.
Anna, I think you've been watching too many zombie shows.
This afternoon, there will be news about the Queen of Country Y passing away and a certain celebrity getting arrested.
Are you serious?
I didn't say more to him and picked up my phone to call Emily.
Hey, Anna. What's up?
Listen to me, don't make a sound, go to the bathroom.
I knew Michael was beside her. In the previous life, when I called to advise her to reconsider, Michael overheard, and we had a fight over it. Although we made up later, I didn't want to waste time on this now. Every minute and second before the apocalypse was precious.
I'm in the bathroom. What's so secretive?
What I'm about to tell you might be hard to accept, but don't tell anyone, including Michael.
Go ahead.
I only told her about the zombie outbreak a month later. She didn't believe me, so I mentioned the two big news events of the afternoon and emphasized not to tell anyone. After hanging up, I started planning what supplies we needed for the apocalypse. Seeing me so focused, John, though thinking it was nonsense, also looked up some survival information online. Suddenly, the notification sound from my phone's social media app rang. John picked up his phone, checked it, and muttered,
Oh my God. Is this all true?
I didn't respond. He sat there in a daze for a while, then quickly began discussing with me what preparations we should make. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Opening it, I saw Emily standing outside, looking equally shocked.
After hearing me recount all the events of the apocalypse, she still shook her head in disbelief. No way, Michael wouldn't force me to do that. His mother treats me well too.
I've told you everything. It's up to you now. I don't know what happened before you jumped, but something made you prefer to end it rather than endure it. If you insist on jumping into the fire again, I won't stop you, but don't come to me anymore.
After a long silence, Emily's eyes reddened. She reached out and held my hand, whispering.
But...
She didn't continue, and seeing that I didn't want to talk to her, she stumbled back to her own home. After she left, John poured me a glass of water.
Are you really going to leave her alone?
I was still upset.
Yes, I've said everything I could. She's so blinded by love, it's frustrating. We just need to take care of ourselves.
But how could I truly leave her alone? After all, she was my only close friend. Once I calmed down, I understood her situation. Emily had a tough life. In her senior year of high school, her parents died in a plane crash while on a business trip to Country Y. Overnight, she lost her parents and was left with their compensation money and a large inheritance. Her greedy relatives wanted a share, but her grandmother protected her fiercely. The two of them depended on each other, but just 2 years ago, her only remaining family member, her grandmother, also passed away. I still remember how she cried on my shoulder at her grandmother's funeral.
Anna, now it's just me. I have no parents, and now my grandmother is gone too.
I patted her back and comforted her.
Don't cry, you still have me. I'm your family too.
That day, she hugged me so tightly she almost fainted from crying. How could I harden my heart and leave her alone? She just wanted a family of her own. Thinking about this, I steeled myself. If it came to it, I'd knock her out and take her away. As for Michael and Mrs. Johnson, I'd knock them out too and leave them in a place swarming with the infected. Today, John and I finalized our stockpiling plan. We couldn't just buy everything blindly since our funds were limited, we had to spend wisely.
City buildings aren't safe either.
In the previous life, if John hadn't cut off the elevator power and locked the emergency exit on our floor right when the outbreak started, we wouldn't have survived. We were always safety conscious, so we had the best security door, and we even had the property management install an extra iron gate in the shared corridor outside our door.
Otherwise, our place would have been broken into by Michael and his awful mother.
What I hadn't told Emily was that Michael and his mother not only drove her to despair, but shortly after her passing, they brought some strong men to rob us of our supplies. They broke through the fire door in the stairwell and then our iron gate. Luckily, John used a drone to lure the infected from the neighborhood to deal with them, avenging her in a way.
That's why I didn't want Emily to tell Michael about the apocalypse. The person who caused her so much pain in the last life had no right to live peacefully in this one.
Now, we needed to find a safe place to hide. We considered fortifying the villa in the southern hills.
It had just been handed over, with a low occupancy rate. During the renovation, all facilities were installed, including solar panels.
But John thought that while it was relatively safe, it couldn't be guaranteed that others wouldn't find it, as it was still in the city. We were at an impasse. In the apocalypse, nowhere seemed safe enough.
I suddenly remembered that a few years ago, my dad had planned to build a secluded resort in the mountains of Z City. He had bought a large piece of land there, but due to the recent downturn in tourism, the project was halted after the houses were built but before they were furnished. We shifted our focus to other projects. Now, my dad had handed over the family business to me and retired to enjoy life with my mom in our hometown. I think we can go back to my hometown and bring your parents along. The resort in the mountains is quite secluded. We can bring a construction team from Sea City to finish the facilities there. And I remember that in the last life, the safe zone was also in Z City.
John agreed with my idea and suggested we get started right away. I immediately called my dad and asked him to take some photos of the villa. Since John is an expert in architectural design, I felt confident leaving the renovation of the villa in his hands.
Why are you bothering with that place all of a sudden?
Let me explain. I have this plan, and I think it could really work out.
I expected him to dismiss it as nonsense. However, after a brief silence, he simply said,
Got it. I'll head over now.
Dad, don't you think I'm making this up?
If I don't trust my own daughter, who can I trust? Besides, even if it's not true, Renovating the villa could attract tourists for vacations. Consider it an investment.
Make sure to bring Emily back with you. That poor child.
I know, Anna. Let's not talk about it now. I have other things to prepare. We'll discuss it when I get back.
After hanging up, a warm feeling filled my heart. Indeed, parents are always the greatest support for their children. In less than 3 hours, my dad sent over the photos. Given our limited time, John immediately called his company to request an extended leave and started modeling on his computer. I checked my bank account and assets to see how much cash I could convert, knowing that in a crisis, money would be the least useful.
I've saved over 20 million in recent years due to the company's good performance. My 2 cars could fetch over 3 million on the second-hand market, and the villa in the Southern Hills could sell for over 20 million. Altogether, I could gather nearly 50 million in cash.
Since it was the end of the year, and if I remembered correctly, the company had just received several large payments, totaling over 80 million in cash. I quickly called the finance department to confirm.
Yes, we have over 84 million in cash.
I then called HR to learn that the company had over 60 employees.
Transfer 50 million to my account and allocate 1 million for essential supplies like rice, flour, oil, and water for everyone. The remaining 20 million will be distributed as bonuses, and the company will take a month-long break.
My decisions caused a flurry of phone calls. Everyone at the company thought I had lost my mind, or that I was in some kind of trouble and planning to flee.
I'm planning a new project and the company's current projects will be paused. Given that this is just a subsidiary and I have other businesses, you can relax. Also, stock up on supplies due to the recurring flu and stay home as much as possible next month.
Everyone in the group chat expressed their gratitude, praising our company as a godsend. I closed the chat and reviewed my stockpiling plan to ensure nothing was missed. Before I knew it, it was already 2 a.m. My phone suddenly rang. It was Emily calling.
Anna, I feel terrible.
Hey! Emily, what's wrong? Hello?
I called out several times, but she didn't respond. Realizing something was amiss, I rushed downstairs. Seeing my urgency, John came over.
What's wrong?
Emily seems to be in trouble.
He wanted to come with me, but I stopped him.
It's okay. You stay here and finish the blueprints. I'll call you if anything happens.
John nodded and went back to work. Emily's house had a fingerprint lock, and she had registered my fingerprint before. I opened the door and found the place dark. Turning on the lights, I went to her bedroom and saw her lying on the bed, her face flushed. I touched her forehead, it was burning hot. I quickly found the medical kit, took out a thermometer, and measured her temperature. It was 41 degrees Celsius. This could cause serious harm.
I gave her some fever medicine and wrapped some ice in a towel to place on her forehead.
John messaged me to ask about the situation.
Is everything okay?
It's just a fever. Get some rest.
Looking at Emily lying there, I felt a surge of anger. She was so infatuated with that jerk, but now that she was sick, he was nowhere to be found. I couldn't keep my eyes open any longer and eventually fell asleep by her bedside. In my half-asleep state, I vaguely heard her mumbling something.
Emily. Emily, wake up.
I lifted my head, and the pain in my neck made me wince. No! Don't come closer. Please, don't do this to me. Mom, please, I swear I won't. Michael, save me.
Aw!
She screamed and sat up abruptly, her face filled with terror. When she saw me, she lunged at me, almost knocking me over.
Anna, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have ignored your advice. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, Emily. Everything's going to be all right.
I won't like Michael anymore. I don't want to marry him.
You came back too?
Upon hearing this, she gently pushed me away, her eyes swollen, and nodded heavily.
I was reborn too.
Emily,
Do you know why I ended my life in my previous life?
I can guess, but tell me.
Because that scoundrel Michael and his awful mother, for a bit of food, dared to hand me over to a group of ruthless people.
As she spoke, her body began to tremble uncontrollably. My heart ached instantly. How could they do this to her? Emily must have been so desperate to take such a drastic step.
Did it hurt a lot?
I was so foolish.
It's okay now. Everything's okay. It's all in the past. Don't be afraid, I'll protect you.
Don't be scared. We still have time. As long as we prepare well, we'll survive.
After a long while, Emily's emotions finally calmed down. With red eyes and sobbing, she said,
I want revenge. I want that man and his mother to pay.
What are you worried about? You have me.
But I was only reborn with the knowledge of the outbreak. I'm not any smarter. I'm afraid I still can't deal with them.
You might not know, but after you left in the previous life, Michael and his mother, along with those scoundrels, tried to rob us of our supplies. But they were all bitten by the infected we lured.
Hearing this, she was stunned for a moment, then smiled.
Serves them right.
After a night of turmoil, we were exhausted and fell into a deep sleep. When we woke up, it was already noon the next day. I calculated the time. The outbreak in the previous life happened on December 13th. We had 41 days left. If we hurried, we should have enough time.
We can do this. I can contribute financially and physically.
With your money, we'll have an additional 15 million. During this preparation period, the more money, the better.
John's efficiency was impressive. After 2 sleepless nights, he finally finished the plans on the 3rd night.
Look at these blueprints, Emily. John's meticulousness is incredible.
Even though I couldn't understand them, I studied agriculture, not architecture. It didn't stop me from thinking his design was excellent. In the past 2 days, I contacted several suppliers and ordered explosion-proof doors, various reinforced steel plates, tempered glass, and solar panels.
I told the supplier a month was too long. With my sincere offer and additional payment, the supplier shortened the delivery time to 20 days.
In 20 days, the house should be almost ready.
Due to the large scale of the project and the requirement for a short construction period with high quality, I hired a construction team at 10 times the market rate. I heard their foreman had participated in the construction of the prison in Sea City.
After selecting the construction team and suppliers, I had John take them back to our hometown early the next morning.
As for Emily and me, we had one important thing to do before returning. Those who hurt Emily in the previous life couldn't be let off in this one. That night, the 3 of us were having hot pot, discussing how to get back at Michael and his mother. Just then, Emily's phone rang. It was Michael calling.
Emily, answer it. Put it on speaker.
Emily took a deep breath, trying to calm herself before pressing the answer button and putting it on speaker.
Hey, baby, what are you doing?
Eating.
Baby, my mom is coming tomorrow. Since we're almost getting married, shouldn't we buy her a gift? After all, she raised me, and it wasn't easy.
Mama's boy.
Emily was about to lose her temper, but I quickly stopped her and gave her a look.
Sure, I'll go pick something out tomorrow morning.
Hearing this, Michael seemed pleased and kissed the phone.
I knew my sweet Emily was the best. Tomorrow, after you buy the gift, come pick up me and my mom.
Emily almost rolled her eyes to the back of her head. Taking another deep breath, she said.
Okay.
The next morning, John left with the construction team, while Emily and I first bought several hidden cameras and installed them in every corner of her house, even the bathroom. By the time we finished installing and testing the cameras, it was already 4:30 p.m. We were exhausted, lying on the couch. Don't underestimate those little cameras, they were quite a hassle. We hadn't even caught our breath when Emily received a call from Michael.
Emily, why aren't you here yet? My mom is getting impatient. It's really rude of you.
Emily wanted to snap, but remembering our revenge plan, she held back and said,
I'm sorry. Anna had a fight with her boyfriend, and I was worried about her. I'm on my way now.
So, in your heart, friends are still more important than family, huh? I'm done talking to you. Just get here quickly.
After hanging up, Emily was fuming.
How dare he? Family, my foot. I could puke.
Don't be mad. It's not worth it to get upset over such scum. At least now you see their true colors.
I accompanied Emily to meet Michael. I was worried she might get bullied. After all, in the previous life, Mrs. Brown had bullied Emily a lot, knowing she had no family. Michael's place was in an old neighborhood not far away. Because the environment wasn't great, he always wanted to move into Emily's house. Who wouldn't want to upgrade from a small apartment to a high-end condo? His family couldn't provide him with such a lifestyle. As I knocked on the door, Michael stood there, his face etched with impatience. Inside, his mother lounged on the sofa, muttering incessantly.
What kind of upbringing is this, making elders wait? She's not even married yet, and she's already like this. What will happen after the wedding? Michael, look at the wife you've chosen. In our village, no one would want a woman like her, even for free. Person with no parents, raised without a mother.
Michael stood silently, his expression blaming me. I turned to Emily, feeling her trembling as I held her hand.
It's going to be okay.
I pushed past Michael, heading straight into the house. Mrs. Johnson glanced at me, mistaking me for Emily.
Let me tell you, don't think that just because you're marrying my son you can...
A loud slap silenced the room. Mrs. Johnson covered her face, looking at me in disbelief. Michael rushed over, anger flaring in his eyes.
Sarah! How dare you hit my mother?
I found it amusing, watching him hesitate due to his interests.
What, still want to fight back? You can try. If you touch me, your precious son won't have a job to go to tomorrow. He won't be able to stay in this city either. You can forget about living in that luxurious house. The dowry of over $1 million, though not much, you won't get a single cent.
Mrs. Johnson started wailing again.
You heartless woman, seducing my son and now bullying me.
Another slap landed on her other cheek, leaving them completely dumbfounded.
Listen, Mrs. Johnson, I'm not your precious son's unfortunate girlfriend. Emily is kind-hearted and doesn't want to argue with a nasty old woman like you, but I'm different. I am someone who always repays a grudge. You can ask your precious son about that.
Michael avoided my gaze but gritted his teeth.
It's wrong for my mother to insult you without reason, but you shouldn't have hit her. We live in a society governed by law.
Oh? So it's right for her to insult others first? So, your family isn't looking for a daughter-in-law, but a maid to vent your anger on?
Michael quickly explained to Emily.
No, Emily, my mom just has a bad temper.
Then why didn't you stand up for me when she insulted me?
She's my mom.
Emily was speechless with anger. Our plan to maintain peace with them failed, and we left Michael's house without looking back. After a day of physical work at home and facing that bizarre mother and son duo, our stomachs growled in unison as we walked out of the neighborhood.
Let's eat first.
The steaming hot pot, with beef oil bubbling, was fragrant and spicy. We didn't care about dieting and ate to our heart's content. We even bought 20 packs of the restaurant's hot pot base to take home. On the way back, Emily was a bit worried.
We don't have much time. If that jerk Michael really gets angry and doesn't contact me, our plan will be ruined.
He doesn't have that much backbone.
Just as I finished speaking, Emily's phone rang.
Speak of the devil. Here he is.
Michael started with a soft tone.
Emily, we've been together for so long, you know I'm not that kind of person. You know how I've treated you all these years. Who has treated you better than me? My mom doesn't have much education, and she talks like that, but she's got a soft heart. Don't take it to heart.
Emily listened with a cold smile, then switched to a more affectionate tone.
I know, I was just too angry today. You know Anna and I grew up together, she was really wrong today.
Emily, no matter what, Anna is an outsider. We're the ones getting married, we're the family.
Emily rolled her eyes, her tone sarcastic.
Yes, we will be a family.
I'm planning to sell the house in my hometown in the next few days, and after we get married, we can buy a bigger house and bring my aunt to live with us. So I might be a bit busy these days.
Michael sounded excited.
No problem. You take care of it. Do you need my help?
No, I can handle it myself. Consider it a gift from me to you.
Then let's go see the house together when you buy it and choose a good layout for comfortable living.
Emily agreed casually, and Michael praised her over the phone. Emily couldn't stand his greedy face any longer and ended the call. The next day, we started stockpiling supplies, but these weren't for us, they were for Michael and his mother. For several days, we hauled large amounts of supplies home, boxes of rice, flour, oil, snacks, and instant food. Since it was a high-end community, the property management service was excellent. We arranged for the staff to help us move everything upstairs. After 5 days of moving, even the professionally trained property staff found it odd.
Ladies, aren't you worried about buying so much and not being able to finish it?
You know how it is, with lockdowns happening on and off. I'm just being cautious. Just stocking up a bit in case of emergencies. We've almost got enough now. This should be enough for the two of us for about half a year.
If it's just the two of you, this much should last a year.
I nodded, not saying more. The property management still found it strange but didn't ask further questions. Soon, all the items were moved into the house.
It's frustrating to think that all these things will be left for Michael and the others.
Seeing her indignant expression, I decided to address her concerns.
Who said we have to leave everything for them?
Emily widened her eyes at me, her gaze clear yet puzzled.
We're taking everything with us.
Taking everything? Where to?
Upstairs to my place. We don't need to take everything, just some of it.
I pointed to the ground.
Take those boxes of rice and flour. These are the real essentials.
The rest were things like seaweed snacks, which, despite looking plentiful, didn't amount to much once you removed the packaging. They couldn't compare to the value of rice and flour. Besides, with our high-profile shopping over the past few days, almost everyone in the neighborhood knew this house had a large stockpile of supplies. What would we do when everyone ran out of food? Thinking about this, I suddenly felt a bit eager to see their reactions when the time came. We moved the supplies upstairs through the fire escape, avoiding the elevator and all the surveillance cameras. We packed them into boxes and transported them to the underground parking lot using a small pickup truck. This process took another 3 days.
To stockpile supplies properly, we need to go to the wholesale market for grains and oils, but our car is too small.
So, what's the plan?
We need a small pickup truck. Let's go to the used car market.
With the shopping list in hand, we started loading the goods. 10 kilograms bags of rice *300, 10 kilograms bags of flour *300, 20-liter barrels of cooking oil *100, soy sauce, salt, vinegar, and other common condiments *100 bottles each. But we were naive. Just the rice alone couldn't fit in our small pickup truck.
Miss, what are you buying so much for? This little old truck of yours won't be enough to carry it all.
We smiled awkwardly.
It's almost the new year. Our company is preparing gifts for everyone. Plus, our boss is quite kind-hearted and plans to donate most of it to the mountain areas so they can have a good new year too.
Oh, who says all capitalists are heartless? Here we have a good boss. Miss, what company do you work for? I'll have my kids apply there in the future.
In the end, we opted to hire a large truck for delivery. Just the rice, flour, and oil filled 2 large trucks. I had the trucks deliver everything to my hometown. My dad arranged for a warehouse to store it temporarily until our safe base was ready. After securing the main supplies, we went to the wholesale market and bought 2 truckloads of snacks, cola, Sprite, instant milk tea, chips, spicy strips, self-heating hot pots, pickled chicken feet, beef jerky, pork jerky. These were essential. Considering that milk spoils easily, we only bought 20 boxes and the rest were powdered milk.
We've triggered a crazy shopping spree over the past 2 days.
Even though it's the apocalypse, we can't shortchange ourselves. We not only want to survive, but to live well.
After handling snacks and drinks, we bought 20 drones. Drones are very useful in the apocalypse, and we bought the ones with the highest load capacity and longest battery life. Each one cost $150,000, but it was worth it for the added safety. After all, money is the least useful thing in the apocalypse.
To facilitate observation, we also bought 2 astronomical telescopes.
For home appliances, I bought 6 large freezers for storing frozen food. We bought 500 portable power banks with a capacity of 1 million mAh each and paid the seller an extra $5,000 to charge them for us. We also bought 5 tablets, 1 for each of us. Next were medicines, essential drugs, health supplements, vitamins. The store clerk, seeing me almost emptying the pharmacy, asked cautiously,
"Ma'am, what are these medicines for?"
For the company.
The clerk said we needed to register our IDs because we were buying too many medicines. To avoid unnecessary attention and trouble, I ended up going to over a dozen pharmacies to get everything we needed. Finally, we bought daily necessities and clothes. The weather in the apocalypse is extreme, so we bought 5 of the thickest down jackets for each person, thick pajamas, waterproof cotton slippers, 10 thick quilts, 20 sets of bedding, 10 pairs of snow boots, shower gel, shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes, sanitary pads, toilet paper, and heat patches. Although the safe base had solar panels, they would be useless during extremely cold and cloudy days. So, we ordered 10 generators and diesel fuel, which were also sent to my dad. After a week of busy shopping, we finally got everything we needed. Emily and I lay on my couch. There were still 21 days left until the apocalypse, which wasn't too short. I picked up my phone and made a video call to John. The call connected quickly, and the light on John's side was dim.
You haven't gone back yet?
No, the construction site is almost finished. They're installing doors and windows these days, so I have to stay here.
John's face, which used to be a bit round, had become thinner from the nonstop work, and he hadn't had time to shave.
Your uncle has already stored the things you bought. The warehouse is a bit far from the city, so not many people go there.
My dad is a sly old fox. No need to worry about him. But you must have lost at least 10 pounds in the past few days.
I think you have too. When are you coming back?
In a couple of days. I'll come back once things are settled here.
Stay safe.
Actually, things here were almost ready. The only thing left was distributing supplies to the company employees. The HR manager took me to the company warehouse to check the purchased supplies. I verified everything one by one and felt relieved. During this period, Michael called Emily every few days to check on her, but we all knew that his concern was just a pretense to get his hands on the house. We didn't expose him and played along with his act.
Emily, how are you holding up? Is everything okay?
I'm fine, Michael. Thanks for checking in.
A week passed, and Michael grew impatient and came directly to Emily's house. Seeing the pile of snack boxes on the floor, he was momentarily stunned.
What's all this stuff doing here?
We explained that it was a benefit from my company for the employees, and we hadn't had time to move it yet.
Just some company perks. We'll move it out soon.
He didn't seem to consider the logical flaw in our explanation and acted as if the house was already his.
You should move these out quickly. It's inconvenient for my mom and me to live here with all this stuff.
We were both puzzled. This guy really thought of himself as the man of the house. We didn't embarrass him and just told him that we had too many things at home and would move them out in a couple of days. Although he was visibly displeased, he probably realized he wasn't officially the man of the house yet and didn't say much more. It was about time for us to return to our hometown to help build a safe base. But before we left, we had to bring Michael and his mother to Emily's house so they could enjoy some comfort. When Michael heard that Emily wanted him and his mother to move to her place, he packed his bags and brought his mom over that very afternoon.
Mom, we're moving to Emily's place!
This place is a mess. How can anyone live here? Where am I supposed to step?
She kicked the boxes on the floor disdainfully.
These belong to my friend. She'll move them out in a couple of days.
You're so generous, lending your house like this. You're wasting my son's hard-earned money.
Listening to their conversation through the surveillance, I couldn't help but marvel at the audacity and twisted logic of Michael and his mother. Since they didn't want the supplies, we decided not to leave anything for them. We moved everything back to my place through the fire escape. It took us about 10 trips because there was so much stuff. Throughout the process, Michael and his mother didn't offer to help once.
Michael is so heartless. How could I have ever liked him?
After everything was moved, Emily told Michael and his mother that it was the end of the year, and my company was busy with employee benefits and other projects. She said she needed to help me and would be staying at my place for a while.
Emily, don't forget to buy New Year's goods for the family.
Emily angrily bit into an apple, cursing Michael and his mother for their shamelessness and lamenting her poor judgment. The next morning, we got up early and drove for 4 hours to finally reach our hometown. Seeing us, my parents rushed over, especially my mom, who had tears in her eyes.
My dear, we're family. Why didn't you tell Auntie if you were feeling wrong?
Emily's eyes reddened at my mom's sudden emotional outburst, and they were about to hug and cry when I interrupted them.
Don't act like it's the end of the world. I'm starving. Is there anything to eat?
My dear mom gave me a gentle look, reminding me to be considerate. Back home, we saw John wearing an apron and setting dishes on the table. He looked even more handsome than before, with a sharp jawline and a high nose that made my heart skip a beat.
Come and eat.
The table was filled with my favorite dishes: braised pork, preserved vegetables with pork, mouth-watering chicken, pepperfish, corn with shrimp, and garlic ribs. Starving, I picked up my chopsticks and devoured half a plate of braised pork in one go. After everyone finished eating, John watched me with a smile, handing me more fish and carefully removing the bones. After the meal, I asked John to show me our safe base. We drove for about 2 hours to the outskirts, where the road became steep and narrow, barely wide enough for one car. After another half hour of bumpy driving, we arrived at a forest. John signaled for me to get out of the car, and we walked for another half hour through the forest until we reached the safe base. The walls John built were about 8 meters high, tightly enclosing the area. There was an additional layer of electric fencing outside the walls, and he had embedded 4 centimeters thick steel plates inside the walls, ensuring high security. The gate was a titanium steel explosion-proof door with a fingerprint lock. Inside was a 2-story house, or rather a 3-story house, as he had added a layer with bulletproof glass on the top floor for solar panels.
It's not aesthetically pleasing, but it's solid. The yard has a vegetable garden with seeds already planted, ensuring fresh vegetables during tough times.
Next to the garden was a small fish pond with fish fry, and a soundproof shed for raising chickens, ducks, and rabbits. Behind the house, he had dug a well, ensuring we wouldn't run out of water. Although we had enough supplies to last about 10 years, we needed to raise live animals in case the virus wasn't controlled or humanity failed after 10 years. Inside the house, the furniture was already in place. The first floor had a kitchen, dining room, gym, and home theater. The second floor had bedrooms, and the third floor, besides the solar panels, housed my telescope, allowing us to see miles away through the bulletproof glass. John had also thoughtfully built a 2-story basement for emergencies. The basement had the best ventilation system, though the rooms were smaller to accommodate a warehouse and backup power room. The warehouse was neatly organized, with clear labels on the shelves. Besides the food and supplies I had bought, there were spare bulletproof glass, drones, and more. The backup power room was soundproof to avoid attracting unwanted attention and to ensure our safety if we had to move underground. The basement's entrance was well hidden, making it impossible for outsiders to find. The most surprising part was a small room with 2 sniper rifles, 2 handguns, and 2 boxes of ammunition.
The handguns were smuggled from the US by a friend. We can't just hide. If someone tries to invade, we need to defend ourselves. The rifles and ammunition were brought from the Golden Triangle by an uncle.
I was at a loss for words. If not for the tough times ahead, their actions would be quite extreme. But they had a point. Shortly after the outbreak, armed robbers began breaking into homes. These preparations were necessary. After seeing all the safety and security measures, I felt completely at ease. No wonder the small building cost over $1 million, it was worth it. After ensuring the construction team had returned to Sea City, John paid the remaining balance and gave them an extra $50,000, advising them to stock up on supplies due to the recurring flu in the upcoming new year. I also sent a message in the work group chat, reminding everyone to stock up on supplies.
Guys, don't forget to stock up on supplies. It's important.
We've distributed 50 bags of rice, 30 bags of flour, and various canned goods and dry goods to each employee, along with 50 barrels of water per household. The company account is empty.
Boss, with all these supplies, my house is too small to fit everything. Especially the 50 barrels of water. My wife says we could open a water station.
You should buy more supplies to keep at home. If you get stuck at home one day, I can't save you. If your house is really too small, you can stay at my villa in Nanshan for a while and bring the supplies with you.
After I sent this, the group chat fell silent. A young colleague replied,
Boss, are you in trouble? Did you hear something? Or did you get some news?
I explained again that nothing was wrong.
Consider it a New Year's surprise. I'll be abroad with my family for a while. If anyone wants to go, you can house sit for me and bring your family to celebrate the New Year.
Soon, 2 girls messaged me asking if they could go. I remembered them. They had just graduated from college and came from the same village. Their families favored boys over girls, so they had a tough life.
Sure, you can go. Here's the villa's password.
The Nanshan Villa had low occupancy since it was newly built 2 months ago. During tough times, it was a relatively safe place with fewer dangers. Even before I experienced hardships, I hadn't heard of any violent groups going there. The villa had privacy glass and solar power, and I had stocked some supplies there just in case. I'm not a savior and can't save everyone, but I want to help those I can. I won't be overly kind, but I'll do my best. John also called his parents again, urging them to return quickly and telling them about the tough times ahead. His parents still didn't believe him.
Mom, Dad, please come back soon. It's important.
In the end, they agreed to return after finishing their work in 2 days. John felt helpless about his parents' stubbornness but was relieved they finally agreed. On the day John's parents were boarding their flight, John received a call from his father, Mr. Smith.
John, I believe you now. Your mom and I are already on the plane. We'll arrive at Sea City International Airport by 9 a.m. tomorrow.
What's going on?
I'll explain everything when I get back.
Mr. Smith hastily hung up, leaving John bewildered. Early the next morning, I drove with John to Sea City International Airport. After picking up his parents, they finally explained the situation once they were in the car.
That night when I called John, there was an incident in the neighboring state. Someone attacked people on the street. When police arrived and subdued the person, the video showed that the attacker had grayish skin, unusually small pupils, and was biting the victims. The attacker was covered in blood.
What did the police do?
When police asked the victims if they need an ambulance, one of them suddenly convulsed, stood up, and attacked others just like the initial attacker. The police had to neutralize both of them. That night, the neighboring state was put under lockdown.
The official explanation was rabies combined with epilepsy. Now, many people in the country are returning home.
Hearing Mr. Smith's account, I was certain it was a zombie outbreak.
Do you think this could be the end of the world?
Auntie, don't worry. Our base is very secure, and we have to trust our country. Other countries might abandon their people, but ours won't.
Hearing my reassurance, Mr. Smith patted Mrs. Smith's back in agreement.
Yes, and both Anna and Brother David are reliable people. Everything is well prepared. When John first told me about this, I didn't believe him. Now that everything is set up, we haven't helped at all, and are just here to enjoy the benefits.
Uncle, please don't say that. Most of the credit for this base goes to John. Having such an excellent son is already a huge help.
Dad, Mom, Anna, and Uncle David are not petty people. You're being too polite.
On the way back, I received a message on WeChat from my work group. Someone had posted a video with a message.
This person is terrifying, going berserk and injuring several people.
I opened the video and felt a surge of fear. It showed a petite girl attacking pedestrians indiscriminately on the street. Despite her small size, she had incredible strength, and several people couldn't restrain her. Many around her were bitten.
Drive faster! Let's get back quickly!
Sensing my urgency, John stepped on the gas, speeding all the way back to the safe base. I immediately called my dad, telling him to bring my mom and Emily back to the base quickly. The group chat was buzzing with intense discussions, with everyone saying how scary the person was, guessing it might be some mental illness. I quickly messaged everyone to stay home and avoid going out, but I couldn't tell them about the apocalypse. I didn't want to be arrested for causing panic.
There seem to be some mental illness cases recently. It would be best to stay safe at home.
Many colleagues replied, thanking me for my concern. We moved to the safe base 3 days early and decided not to go out anymore. We parked the car in the yard and took tools to block the only road leading down the mountain. The road wasn't specially built, with trees and shrubs on both sides. We cut down 2 trees to block the road, covered them with shrubs, and draped vines over them. These wild plants grow quickly and would cover the area in no time. That evening, we gathered in the yard for a hot pot, celebrating our reunion. My dad, who was at the market when I called, had bought fresh tripe, duck intestines, and beef aorta. My mom's fried crispy meat was also delicious.
Thank you for everything.
There's no need for thanks. We're all family. Just settle in and feel at home. This safe base is largely thanks to John. We should be thanking you.
After some mutual compliments, Mr. Smith finally relaxed.
Let's raise our glasses and pray that the apocalypse doesn't start or is quickly controlled.
We all raised our glasses, toasting to an uncertain tomorrow. The next morning, I received a message from the 2 girls staying in the villa. They said there were more attacks on the street last night and felt those people weren't just mentally ill. They were scared and asked if they could put soundproof foam and privacy film in my house.
Sure.
I wanted to remind them of something but received another message from Lucy, one of the girls.
Anna, I've been having dreams lately. In my dreams, those attackers are actually zombies, and the apocalypse is imminent.
I was stunned. Seeing my lack of response, she quickly added,
Maybe I've just been watching too many zombie movies. I might be overthinking.
No.
Soon, my phone rang with a WeChat call. Lucy, sounding anxious, asked,
Anna, is the apocalypse really coming? Did you come back because of it?
Lucy had also been reborn? The answer was clear. I didn't deny it. Lucy continued,
Anna, thank you for everything you've done for us. Please take care of yourself and avoid talking in the group.
What do you mean?
Our project manager, Chris, isn't a good person in my dream. A few days ago, he created a small group and said your behavior has been strange lately. He's been asking around about your whereabouts.
Hearing this, my heart sank. It seemed my unusual behavior had been noticed.
Anna, I need to tell you something else. I replaced your villa's door with a blast-proof one and set up an electric fence outside.
It's okay. You and your friends should stay safe. You can reinforce the house however you like. Protect yourselves and your partner.
Okay. Make sure no one can contact you.
I felt a warmth in my heart. I'm not a saint, but I can't stand by and watch those around me suffer. While there are ungrateful people, there are also those like Lucy who are grateful. I don't regret what I've done. The zombie outbreak happened a day earlier than I remembered. I wondered if the presence of reborn individuals had altered the timeline. When the outbreak occurred, I was scrolling through TikTok. Emily was beside me, watching the movements of Michael and his mother in her house. They had been living comfortably, with Mrs. Brown occasionally badmouthing Emily and praising her son. Suddenly, I came across a video of multiple people attacking a crowd on the street. The person recording was running and shouting,
Damn, this looks like zombies!
Then, the trending topic on Weibo exploded, filling the entire page, even crashing the server. However, Michael and his mother seemed oblivious to the chaos outside. Mrs. Brown was still in a good mood, wearing Emily's silk pajamas, applying a face mask from her ex-boyfriend, and scrolling through her phone. She seemed to have come across the video too and immediately called Michael over to watch. Michael reacted quickly, checking the fridge for food, but found only a few bottles of cola and some potatoes. Since moving to the city, Mrs. Brown had considered herself a wealthy lady, refusing to cook and eating out or ordering takeout every day. She even hired cleaners to tidy up the house, living a carefree life, so there was hardly any food stored at home. In the end, they searched the entire house and found only half a bag of rice, a few potatoes, and 5 bottles of cola.
What kind of wife did you find? She took all the food. I bet she did it on purpose. And that friend of hers, that wretched woman dared to hit me.
Mrs. Brown was furious, almost grinding her teeth.
I don't know where they've been these past few days. They must have known about this in advance, which is why they bought so much food.
Call that little wretch and ask her where she is. She's probably enjoying herself somewhere.
Without hesitation, Michael took out his phone and dialed Emily's number, opting for a video call on WeChat. Emily glanced at her phone, turned it off, and tossed it aside.
What's wrong with him? He can't reach me, so he calls you. He's like a persistent dog.
I know. It's annoying.
Seeing I wasn't answering, Michael switched tactics and sent me a message.
Is Emily with you? Did you know something in advance? Tell her there's no food at home. She needs to bring some back, or my mom and I will starve.
Damn, Michael and his heartless mother must be idiots. Why should I bring them anything? They don't deserve it.
Do you want to curse him back to vent your anger?
But won't that expose that we were prepared?
Even if they know, what can they do? We're miles away. They can't find us. Besides, they can't even leave the house now.
Emily thought for a moment and agreed. Not taking the chance to taunt them while they're alive would be a waste. Emily immediately dialed back. The call barely rang before Michael answered eagerly.
Hello, Sarah, where's Emily? Put her on.
It's me.
Hearing Emily's voice, Michael immediately adopted a commanding tone.
Where have you been? Not answering your phone and turning it off. Do you know there's no food at home? You took so much stuff without leaving any. I think you did it on purpose to starve us. I'm telling you, you better bring us some food, or you'll never step foot in this house again.
What's wrong with you? You're the one asking for help, and this is your attitude?
What do you mean?
Are you deaf or brainless? I've put up with you and your despicable mother for long enough. I don't mind telling you, I knew about this in advance. I have plenty of food, but you can forget about getting a single grain from me. Your wretched mother treats you so well, let her figure it out. Isn't motherly love supposed to be the greatest? She should find food for you. You're a freeloader with an attitude. Just looking at you makes me sick. We were going to leave some supplies for you, but you didn't want them. I moved them to my place, and now you regret it? You are impossible to please.
Emily's outburst left Michael and Mrs. Brown stunned. Michael had the call on speaker, so Mrs. Brown heard everything. She started cursing, but Emily hung up immediately. Realizing she had been shouting at nothing, Mrs. Brown became even more furious and kicked the coffee table. But the marble table didn't budge, and she likely hurt her foot. She fell heavily to the ground. Michael, already irritated, reluctantly helped her to the sofa.
Finally, I got that off my chest.
That's just the beginning. There's more to come.
On the third day of the zombie outbreak, we were completely isolated in the safe base. The chaos outside didn't affect us much, but we still sent out drones to monitor the streets. Outside, every house had its doors and windows tightly shut. The once bustling streets were now desolate, with darkened bloodstains and flies buzzing around despite the winter cold. Cars were abandoned on the roadside, their doors stained with blood. The owners likely became part of the roaming zombie horde. The drone flew to the neighborhood where my parents used to live. We saw two people emerge from a building, heavily dressed to cover all their skin, wearing motorcycle helmets. They were dirty, seemingly on purpose. They walked slowly, mimicking the zombies, and safely exited the neighborhood. They headed to a nearby supermarket and quickly filled their backpacks and carried water.
They're quite skilled, making 2 trips to gather supplies.
Seeing their success, others began to imitate them. Some succeeded, while others, poorly disguised, became zombie food. It was hard to watch. John comforted me, giving me a full massage until I felt better. On the 5th day of the outbreak, the water supply was cut off, but the internet still worked. Weibo was flooded with cries for help, and some people were spreading negativity, claiming civilians were cannon fodder and abandoned. However, most replies were scolding them, as everyone knew this was a global disaster. I believed our country wouldn't abandon its people, but resources were stretched thin. In our neighborhood group, the property management started counting survivors, claiming they had contacted rescue teams to take us to safety. In the previous life, John and I found it suspicious. Emergency calls weren't going through, so how did they contact rescue teams? We didn't report our names, and neither did Michael's family. It turned out our decision was right. The property management hadn't contacted any rescue teams. Instead, they broke into survivors' homes, looting food, water, and even women. Those who resisted were neutralized and thrown to the zombies. This time, John also remained silent in the group. But soon, the property management called Emily.
Hello, is this Emily?
Yes, it's me. Who is this?
I'm from the property management. We're counting the survivors in our neighborhood. Rescue teams will come to save us.
But I'm not at home. Can you come to save me?
Not at home.
I was on a business trip. I just returned from the US and am now hiding in the restroom at Sea City International Airport. There are many zombies outside. Can you come to save me? Or can you tell my boyfriend to come to save me?
Your boyfriend?
He's at my house. I bought a lot of food before I left. If he comes, he should bring some food. I can't reach him, and I'm starving and scared.
She pretended to cry. The man sounded excited.
You have a lot of food at home?
Yes, I bought it for a company event, but didn't have time to move it. Only my boyfriend and his mom are at home.
Before she could finish, the call was abruptly ended. Emily had been in a good mood these past few days, even eating more at dinner. With so many people at home, our days weren't boring. My parents and John's parents got along well. John's mom and my mom enjoyed knitting together, while Mr. Johnson and my dad took care of the garden and animals. Sometimes, they played badminton in the yard, though the shuttlecock often ended up in the fish pond. John, Emily, and I were responsible for monitoring the surroundings. Life went on smoothly. If it weren't for the drone footage reminding us of the apocalypse, we might have thought the world hadn't changed. The number of dead outside increased, and social order began to collapse. We saw several robberies and murders, but there was nothing we could do. In the apocalypse, survival was already challenging. The internet became intermittent, and Emily's house surveillance sometimes went offline. But now, it was back, and we saw Michael and his mother barricading the door with everything they could find, each holding a kitchen knife. Outside, we heard the sound of lockpicking and cursing.
Damn it, pretending no one's home, making us starve. When we get in, you're dead.
Then came the sound of the door being rammed.
Damn, you even blocked the door.
The ramming grew louder, and soon, the barricade was breached, and a dozen burly men stormed in. Michael and his mother swung their knives desperately but were quickly overpowered due to their malnutrition from eating only rice and potatoes. The leader, a man I recognized from when we bought supplies, kicked Michael hard. Mrs. Brown, seeing this, tried to fight back but was also kicked down. I couldn't bear the violence and buried my head in John's chest.
It's so scary. They're so fierce.